Hi guys, today's video will be the second video for your reading lesson for the week of April 6th. This will be Unit 5, Week 3, and this will be your second story for the week. If you remember earlier this week, we talked a little bit about what do heroes do. And so we looked at our vocabulary words that were in our story, and we talked about their meanings. We also talked about what a hero is and what makes them a hero. One of the things that we talked about was that a hero is someone that is recognized for doing something remarkable and someone that people look up to. Some of the examples that I wrote on the board are a doctor, a fireman, and a police officer. We talked about what they do that makes them a hero. Well, doctors save lives and help sick people. A fireman saves lives and puts out fires. Police officers help keep people safe. So those are some of the examples we talked about. And I said that, there are other people that could be considered heroes as well, as long as they are helping others and are recognized for doing something great. One of the stories we read this week was about Cesar Chavez, and it was a biography. Remember that a biography is a story that has facts and information about someone's life, written by someone else. This story told about how Cesar Chavez went through his life, making different decisions, and it showed how he became known as a hero to the farmers in different areas. So I have added Cesar Chavez to our list of heroes because he helped the farm workers get fair treatment. Today's story is going to be about brave Bessie. This story is also a biography. Remember that we talked about sequence is also important when we're thinking about a biography. The author will arrange the information in a biography in the order in which it happened in that character's life. In this story, brave Bessie is going to tell us about her life, and we're going to notice that the sequence are the events that happen and the order that they happened in the story. We talked about words that signal sequence, and they are called time order words. First, next, then, last, finally. Those are all words that help us realize the order that events go in a story. Another important part of a biography is a timeline. In the last story of Cesar Chavez, we looked at a timeline of important events that occurred throughout his life. We were able to see when he was born and the different events along the way that happened until his death. And as we looked at those events, we could see the time order because it listed dates. So sequence is another important part in a biography. Today I'm going to be reading for you the story Brave Bessie. And as I read, I want you to be thinking about what kind of hero Brave Bessie might be. Now, the title already gives you a clue. Brave Bessie. Brave is a character trait of Bessie. So I already know Bessie is going to be showing some character traits of bravery. I want you to listen for those examples as I read the story. We also want to listen for our vocabulary words as I read. Are you ready? Brave Bessie. This is on page 442 in your large reading book if you want to follow along. Twice a year, a library wagon would stop in front of Bessie Coleman's little house in Texas. Bessie's mom would rent books for her 12 children to read. Wow, 12 children. Bessie loved to read about Booker T. Washington and Harriet Tubman. They were her heroes. Bessie daydreamed of being someone special like them. Bessie knew that school was important. She walked 4 miles each day to get to school and 4 miles home. She practiced reading to her little brothers and sisters. She practiced her numbers by checking the money her family got for picking cotton. Bessie scrimped and saved enough so she could go to college. That must mean that she didn't have a lot of money if she had to scrimp and save. She had to really work hard to have enough money to go. She went to college at 18, but left after only a few months. She could not afford to stay in school. But Bessie was not ready to give up on her dreams. Oh, good for her. She decided to move to Chicago. Her brothers, Walter and John, lived there. It was a big and exciting city where people's dreams came true. Bessie soon got a job in a barber shop. Bessie enjoyed listening to John tell stories about French lady pilots in World War I. Bessie had never heard of a lady pilot. The more Bessie thought, the more she liked the idea. Bessie knew she could learn to fly too. This makes me think of one of the stories that we read with Miss Linda when we talked about how women changed the laws so that women could be doctors and women could vote and do other things that the men could do. Do you remember those stories? Bessie quickly discovered how hard it would be to become a pilot. In the 1920s, there were rules about who could learn to fly. Most people wouldn't teach someone with Bessie's skin color how to fly. Bessie did not agree with the rules, but she could not find anyone to teach her to fly. One day, Bessie met a very important man who worked at a newspaper. She asked him if he knew anyone that could teach her how to fly a plane. He told Bessie to go to France. That is where she had first heard of lady pilots. He told her that it would be a lot of work, but Bessie was determined to succeed. That word determined, we've heard it before too, haven't we? That was one of our vocabulary words previously. She was determined to succeed. Succeed is one of our new vocabulary words. Remember, she was determined to accomplish her dreams, her goals. She took classes and learned to speak French. She saved her money and was finally able to buy a ticket to France. Bessie sailed to France on a steamship. She had never been on a ship before. It was big and noisy. The ocean was windy and rough. Bessie was a little scared being on a big ship all by herself. She reminded herself that she was on her way to being somebody special. The trip took 9 long days to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. Bessie started out at the water, stared out at the water, waiting to see the land. Finally, Bessie reached France. Soon she found a school that would teach her how to fly a plane. After years of hard work, Bessie was ready for her first flying lesson. First, Bessie had to study hard on how to inspect a plane. I hear that word first, and that reminds me that's a time order word. It's going to tell me the events that's happening here. First, Bessie had to study how to inspect a plane. This plane had wings made of wood and cloth. Bessie had to check the cloth wings for any tears. She also had to check the propeller. After a few lessons, Bessie climbed into the back of the plane, and her teacher climbed into the front. The propeller twirled, and the engine chugged. After a running start, the plane took off. Bessie gripped the controls as she took to the air. Her cheeks were stinging from the cold wind, but Bessie was grinning. Since she's grinning, that tells me that she must be enjoying herself. I bet she's not scared. Bessie had to walk miles and miles to flying school each day, just like she walked to school as a child. Bessie practiced how to take off and how to land. She learned all the words for planes and flying in English and in French. Finally, Bessie became the first African American woman to earn a pilot's license. People could call her an aviatrix, the name for a lady pilot. That meant she was truly someone special. I bet Bessie Coleman had a really hard way to go at becoming a pilot. Not only was she a woman, that was hard to be a pilot, being a woman, but she was also an African American woman. And in this time, it was very hard to get a job as a pilot if you were an African American as well. So she had a double hard chance at becoming a pilot. Bessie worked hard for years to earn her pilot's license. Bessie returned to America. She was surprised to see reporters waiting to ask her questions. I wonder why the reporters are there. What are you thinking? Why would reporters want to ask Bessie Coleman questions, do you think? Remember, we talked about that it was hard for her to get her license. So maybe they wanted to ask her questions about being the first African American lady pilot. Many people were interested in Bessie. They wanted to see her fly her planes. Bessie wanted to help other African Americans. She wanted children to know that they could make their dreams come true. She decided to earn money for her own flying school by performing stunt flying shows. One sunny day, over 1,000 people paid to see Bessie perform in New York. The crowd cheered as Bessie climbed into the cockpit. She was wearing a leather coat, a helmet, goggles, and a confident smile. The plane slowly rolled down the field and took off. Bessie performed challenging flying stunts like flying eights and tailspins. The crowd went wild. Bessie performed her stunts in Texas, Tennessee, and Illinois. She flew over fields like one that she picked cotton in as a child. Crowds of people were below her waving and cheering. She had earned the title Brave Bessie. Years later, her dream of opening a school finally came true. The Bessie Coleman Aero Club taught African American people how to fly. Thanks to Bessie, their dreams were taking flight too. You know, when I think about her name being Brave Bessie, I think about some of the events that happened in the story that made her brave. What are you thinking? Why would they call her brave? You know, first of all, she was a lady. And she had to be pretty brave to try to fly a plane because no other ladies had done that before. Another thing I'm thinking is that she was an African American. And that made it doubly hard to get a job flying a plane. So not only was she brave because she was a lady, but she was brave because she was an African American lady. Another thing that made her brave, she had to go all the way to another country to learn how to fly a plane. Remember, she couldn't just learn how to fly here in America. She had to go all the way to France. You know, if you're going to another country and you have to learn a whole new language, that can be kind of scary. New people, new places, words you may not know. That had to be tough. Bessie was brave. She did all that. She went to school. She learned how to fly. Not only did she learn how to fly a plane, but she learned how to do tricks on her plane. Remember, it said that she did challenging flying stunts. Challenging meant they were difficult, even for the men to do. But she was brave and she was ready. She did figure eights and tailspins. All of that made Bessie brave. That's what earned her the nickname Brave Bessie. She challenged herself to follow her dreams, and she didn't give up. You know, that is a true hero. I think we should add Bessie Coleman to our list of heroes, don't you? Bessie is an example of another hero. Not only did she accomplish her own dreams, but she helped other people accomplish their dreams as well. Remember, the last part of the story tells us that she opened her own flying school so she could teach other African Americans how to fly a plane too. She didn't want them to have to go through the challenges that she did to learn how to fly. She wanted them to be able to do that right here where they live. You know, I think Bessie is a true hero. Another thing that I noticed about our story, just like Cesar Chavez, Brave Bessie has a timeline, and it shows us the events that happened in her life. It says in 1892, Bessie was born on January 26th in Atlanta, Texas. In 1910, Bessie enrolled in college. In 1915, Bessie moved to Chicago, Illinois. In 1920, Bessie sailed to France. In 1921, Bessie obtained her pilot's license in France. In 1922, she performed at her first air show in New York. In 1925, Bessie earns the name Brave Bessie. In 1926, Bessie Coleman dies in Jacksonville, Florida. And in 1929, the Bessie Coleman Aero Club opens. So just because things are hard or challenging doesn't mean we should give up. We should keep trying to accomplish our goals and our dreams just like Bessie did, just like Cesar Chavez did. He could have given up when he was trying to be a farmer and things were really tough and the workers were having a hard time making ends meet, having enough money. He didn't give up. He kept working hard and trying, and so he accomplished his goals, just like Brave Bessie. You know, a true hero is someone that will stand up for what's right and will do the right thing. And you know, I think all of us can be considered a hero if we do those things. Stand up for the right thing and do the right thing. That's a hero. When I think about this story, remember we said that it was a biography. And biographies give us facts and information about a person's life, true facts and information about a person's life. Biographies are organized in a certain order. And we said that the sequence is very important. Time order words like first, next, then, last, finally. They help us to know the sequence and the order of how things happen. In Brave Bessie, there was a sequence. First, she wanted to go to school, but she didn't have enough money. Next, she saved up enough money and moved to France where she could go to flying school. She learned how to fly. She learned how to do tricks. After that, she moved back to America and did stunts in her plane. And finally, she opened her own pilot school so she could teach others. Those were the main events that happened in that story, and I put them in order using my sequence words. Also, we talked about the timeline. A biography has a timeline that lists events that happen in the order and how they happen, and it gives us the dates so that we can see what happens first, next, then, and last. That's also very important. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was our words that we learned about this week. You know, in our story, we learned about some words that were our vocabulary words. One of our vocabulary words was challenging. When I think about the word challenging, I want you to think about a synonym for the word challenging. Remember, a synonym means the same. S for synonym, S for same is how you can remember that. What's a synonym for the word challenging? That's right. Hard is a synonym for the word challenging. They mean the same thing. They're different words, but they mean the same thing. What's a synonym for agree? Agree means to get along. So I could agree or get along. Those mean the same thing. What's a synonym for the word discover? Find is a synonym for the word discover. If you find something, you discover it. What's a synonym for the word interest? To like something. If I like it, I'm interested in it. What about the word succeed? What's a synonym for the word succeed? If you succeed, you pass or you achieve your goals, or you meet your goals. Or you might say to succeed is to win. That's okay. So remember, a synonym is a word that means the same. S for synonym, S for same. I hope you enjoyed our stories this week of Cesar Chavez and Brave Bessie. I think that both those characters we could consider our heroes, and we can add Brave Bessie to our wall of heroes here. I want you to remember what a hero is and what a hero does. A hero makes a difference in other people's lives. How could you be a hero? What are some things you could do to make a difference? Think about that. That might be something you'd like to write about. I hope that you go on our our Google Classroom page and find our activities that go with these stories and answer those questions about our spelling words and our vocabulary words, and think about what you could write in your journal about. Maybe you want to write about a hero that you know. Maybe you want to write about how you could be a hero. Take some time and think about some things you could write in your journal too this week. I'll see you next time. Bye.